Yeah, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with Scott Moon and Chuck Manley. I don't know if you guys if you noticed that.
Coming to you from hyperspace.
But I pointed to the right direction the first time. There was none of this. Yeah. I don't know where things are at.
Because you're a pro, man.
I don't know that this happened
best ever
before on the show.
It's a wrap.
And show. Welcome everybody to the show. Let's see who. I mean, does anybody want to take a guess? Anyone?
It was Barlow.
Should we just do like the first person?
He was also kind of pushy when we were like a minute over.
Yeah, he was like, "Come on, guys, hello." Yeah. I think what we should do is instead of doing the first comment golf clap of appreciation, we should do the first comment after Rick Partlow's
Rick Partlow, yes.
Golf clap of appreciation. Yeah, and then maybe it could be like a different person every week. I'm just saying. So in this case, if we were to start this week, it'd be Corey Gillum. So Corey Gillum gets their first comment after Rick Partlow clap of appreciation. Thank you, Corey. Hello, welcome. Let's see. Patricia's here. Welcome. Who else is here? Nathan is here. Lauren and Colleen are here. Hello. Scott McGlasson is in the house. Hello. And then it happened. I like that Nathan was like, let's toss Wesley Crusher out an airlock and let's get this show going. I like that.
That might qualify as you say. We should have a clap for the most magical phrase of the show in the live chat. That's pretty good.
Whenever you can throw Wesley Crusher out an airlock, I mean I think we should do that on any occasion.
Call it claps of valor.
Oh, nicely done. Which sounds suspiciously like an STD, but whatever.
It kind of does.
The Valor clap.
The clap of Valor. Let's see. Lou is here. Thomas Hoddle is here. Hello, welcome. So Josh, have you updated the keystroke? I feel like this is kind of like a dig. Like
that's very pointed.
Like a little like like stab. Yes, whatever. Fine. No, I have not updated the keystroke Rimo sheet. I'm sorry. I'm a horrible human being.
Knowing is half the battle.
Knowing is there an app where we can use to see all the comments? Yeah, you mean the ones from Facebook too, Corey? We see them all in StreamYard, but I'm not sure that there is a way to show all of the comments at one time on the stream, and I apologize for that. Maybe you should just watch it on Facebook.
Can they watch through StreamYard?
No, I don't think so. You have to watch it on YouTube or Facebook. I think you just have to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a good point. We should just ignore everybody that's on Facebook and just comment. Just
ignoring Facebook in general has its benefits.
It's kind of an overall
life choice,
reasonable policy,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. At least the news or the news stream.
I was telling some stories about that the other day about a couple of people I know at work who have never been on social media of any kind. Because they're old like me, and they're just so much happier.
Yeah,
they really are.
Can you imagine not being on like Facebook or Twitter or any like how much different your life would be if you weren't?
The problem is once you've been here, it's hard to leave because now you actually do have people you want to stay in contact
Exactly.
with.
Yeah.
Like you guys.
But if you never knew any better,
I never would have met you guys.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's see. Ken Ward says, I never catch these lives. I'm so happy to catch one. Always enjoy your show. Hey, thanks, Ken. This one is dedicated to Ken Ward, just so you all know. And we'll also give Ken Ward a golf clap of appreciation. Thank you.
Appreciation.
That's 3 GPAs.
I don't know if we should be using approval because approval could be hurtful to people that aren't. So that implies disapproval. I think that's wrong.
It's different than the judo chop of disapproval, which we'll use at some point in the future.
Of scorn and punishment.
Let's talk about updates this week. Scott, what have you been up to, man?
Let's see. So I'm cranking real close to finishing up Orphan Wars 3. I was really smoking through Blue Sun Armada 2 that's due a little bit later, but I've kind of had to put that aside to make sure I get my first priority on this done. Podium is just launching the heck out of the Reaper books finally. They in June and July, I think, and then months before that, there's one every month. There's basically a Reaper every month for the next foreseeable several months. what I can tell. So very excited about that. I've been listening to
It's about
Wars.
time too.
Yeah, I've been listening to Orphan Wars while I was mowing the yard stuff as I work on Orphan Wars 3, just kind of and whatnot. And it's just interesting to hear Luke Daniels read one of your stories. It's kind of surreal. It really is.
All the time. It never gets old.
Mm-hmm. And he's come to some characters in that book that he does really well. He does all of the Dogons, who are kind of a Worf-like super race. Well, does their voices good. So that's fun. Moved into a new office. My kids cleaned this one out on Father's Day so I can move into it because my oldest moved out.
Oh,
But
nice.
he's a little bit like me, and he's like, I'm cleaning that out, Dad, for you. He's been moved out for 2.5 weeks. It's still not done.
Nice.
Like, we'll just go ahead and clean it out. Anyway, so did that, and that's about it. That's all I can think of, working, writing stuff.
I don't know that you could have a better Father's Day present than I said, what did I say earlier when we were talking on the phone? I said something along the lines of, it's weird talking to Scott, who now has an official office and is no longer a troll underneath his stairs.
Yeah. It's weird though, because I feel like my voice is really echoing here, and I'm hoping this mic doesn't really let
No,
me
you sound
through.
good, man.
No, you sound fine.
Yeah,
but
you sound
in
good.
here, like when I dictate and stuff, because I have it set up, a pretty nice dictation thing set up now, the way with this extra room. But I really need to, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how to hang up some sound baffles on the walls or something. I'm not supposed to put nails and everything.
Oh, I set out to make as many holes in the walls as I can.
Yeah,
and that way,
like a
when we
machine gun
move
fire.
in like 15 years, I can hear the gripes about, look at all the holes in the walls.
Yes.
Yep. So we'll see.
Yeah, after I painted mine, my wife was like, I cannot believe you're going to hang things on these pretty walls. I'm like, what the fuck else am I going to do with them?
You know what I found is command strips that you can get from like Lowe's and like packs of 20. They're like,
Yeah.
I've used those on all of my
Did
posters.
you? I've tried them. I could never get them to hold.
Well, I do, instead of just doing like one, and it's command strips. It's not the ones like with the hook. It's the Velcro.
Right. Yeah, the
And
Velcro
I
ones.
put 2 pieces of Velcro on each.
Yeah.
Press it against the wall. So now when they start falling off, then we'll all be in agreement that was probably a bad idea. But right now it works fantastic.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm thinking about super glue, but I'm pretty sure that I will hear about that at some point in my
No, that'll be fine. I'm sure that will be fine.
Yep.
We could just blame it on the troll that used to live under your stairs, and then
Yeah, it just happened. He crept out and just vandalized my office.
Well, if you decide to paint, I recommend the color Paradox Green.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, I thought about actually literally making that a green wall, just painting it, but I need a computer powerful enough to handle a green screen, and then I could be set.
Corey Gillum says he's waiting on the Edge of Valor musical. I think that would be an amazing idea. I don't know if you guys have you ever watched The Greatest Showman? As a music came out a couple of years back.
I've heard it's not bad.
That I do not like musicals at all. My mom,
I don't either.
My mom's favorite movie when I was growing up was The Sound of Music, and I hate The Sound of Music. Every time those songs come on, like my daughter loves it. I'm like, I don't want to hear The Hills Are Alive with The Sound of Music one more time. But The Greatest Showman is amazing, and if the same people that did The Greatest Showman could do Edge of Valor the musical, like I'd be down. For that. I'd be down for that.
My youngest daughter loves Hamilton, and she's now watching In the Heights, which is a new one that's
my son's all up into that.
Yeah.
Oh, see, Rick's got it. Rick's already got the lyrics. The hills are alive with the sound of valor, and then they're like, ah! Yeah.
And then machine gun fire.
Die, Nazi scum.
Kind of like Where Eagles Dare mixed with.
That's right.
The Sound of Music. I think that would be a good combination.
Hey, Luke's in the house, listening from work. Welcome. Hello. Welcome to the show. Charlie Dunn's driving through Washington.
If you're going to half listen, I recommend about 50%. I was trying to divide it up with, Chuck getting 75% and I'll take 25%.
Just every other word.
What about me?
Well, he only gets half. You can only half listen.
It's messed up. I don't
he has
know
to
why.
make choices.
You have to
Rough
you'll have to
life
rotate
choices.
every third word for each of us.
There you go.
What about you, Chuck? What have you been up to this week, man?
Had a big Father's Day. Got some. It's been kind of a slow week for work, but I got some stuff for my little outdoor grill kitchen area out there. My wife got me this bar thing that we're setting up, and I had
you don't think that getting like grill stuff is like the same thing as us getting our wives vacuum cleaners?
Absolutely.
Not at all.
And she is not at all shy about saying so.
She's like, here's some stuff. Now go make me some food.
Yeah, it's like this is for you, isn't it? She's like, yes, it is.
It's for the family.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard that one too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My dad.
And the bad thing is though, she wants crap like vacuum cleaners. You know what she wanted last Christmas? The one thing she wanted more than anything else is she wanted this Bissell. It's for hardwood floors, but it shoots steam into the floor and is supposed to clean it really, really good. And I got her that, and you'd have thought I'd cured cancer or something. I was just the best guy ever.
Well, they know what they want now.
Yeah. But anyway, I been doing that, and daughter's softball's starting to kick up again. She's had lots of JV practices and stuff. And I had a sort of a mental breakdown one day, and I just got frustrated with my desk that I was using, and so I scrapped it and started cleaning out my office. And now I have a not brand new, but I got it off Facebook Marketplace. But I've got a nice L-shaped solid wood desk with drawers, and it doesn't rattle when I hit it like the old one did.
Nice.
And decided to just gut the place and
pin clicking as well.
Yes. I have a drawer to put
the pin-free desk,
not right in front of me. But yeah, I painted, had the happy accident with the color, and just kind of did that. I've been working here and there as best I can, but I don't know, kind of stalled on the very end of this book.
Yeah,
but just because I keep thinking about the next one, and I can see ahead. And I'm just not happy with where it's at the moment. So
I took a few days off and brainstorm some stuff.
Well, that's kind of what I'm doing, and then on Friday I did the show with Laureen and Kaylin, or Laureen
and Kaylin. Might as well just combine them. I mean, make them one super robot.
That's like Chuck Moon and Scott Manley.
That's it.
Yeah.
But I did the show with them and did my brainstorming exercise with them, and yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm letting my subconscious sort of percolate on it and figure out what I think the issue is. So that's really been about it, man. Just a lot of stuff around the house and helping the ladies on Friday.
I like that Jay Clifton is saying, I'm trying to convince my wife that she needs a 1948 Harley Davidson. So far, no dice.
Good luck with that, buddy.
You might work. My wife's trying to convince me
Best
we need
of luck.
Some collector's Porsche that's coming in. She likes cars. And I'm like, it's for the family?
My dad, when this was years ago, back when the original Nintendo came out, my dad had the very first for the family gift that I'd ever experienced in my life, and I've never forgot it since. He bought my mom for her birthday, 1942, the airplane battle game for the Nintendo, and gave it to her as a birthday present.
Oh my God.
And she opened it and looked at him, and he looked at us, and we were like, that man is amazing. He just did that.
Fearless.
And we played the crap out of that game. I don't even remember what else my mom got for her birthday that year, but that was amazing. And we played the
crap out of that actually was her, because I would have handed it to her and been like, this is to keep the kids out of your hair.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was a great gift. Great gift. Somebody said something earlier. Oh, Tom Hoddle says Cats of Valor. This time it's personal. I could do that.
We should do updates of Valor since it's your turn, I think.
Updates of Valor. Sorry. I'm scrolling through the live chat because Lauren Moore says, why not? We're basically the same person. It works out.
Like a three-legged race or something.
Let's see. I've been listening to the first Tranquility book, Blood and Steel, came out a couple of weeks ago, and I listen to all my books on audio. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, because I love hearing them on audio. like as
Right.
productions, and especially when we have a great narrator that reads it, like Scott Aiello's doing the narration.
Yeah,
He's
Scott's good.
killing it. His version of Koskov like matches exactly what I thought she'd sound like when I wrote it. But it's also like you hear all the things that are incorrect. Like you hear errors and you're like, that shouldn't have been there. That shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
Or I can't remember what chapter it is, but the sentence is basically she leveled her fire and fired. And I'm like, no, that's not correct. Because it should be like leveled her gun and fired.
Yeah.
And apparently none of that, like I didn't catch it. Devin didn't catch it. The editor didn't catch it. It's fine. Like it happens. It's just like you hear it and you're like, oh, I can't change that.
Yeah, I know. It's like a little needle in your gut. Just,
yeah. But it's funny because sometimes I'm hearing stuff that I forgot that we wrote in the book, and as I'm going back, we're tweaking book 2 right now, and we're about 80% done with it. And there are things that I'm finding in book 1 that I'm like, oh, that helps me in book 2 that I forgot about.
Mm-hmm.
One of my author buddies, Mark Edelheit, we were talking on the phone the other day, and he goes, oh, I heard you killed me in a book. And I was like, I did? And I'm like racking my brain, like, what? I killed Mark in a book? I don't remember killing Mark in a book. And I told him, I'm like, I don't remember. I mean, if you heard it, I probably did, but I don't remember. So I'm mowing the lawn yesterday, and it gets to this part, and it mentions the main character's captain, like from back in the war, Mark Edelheit, getting killed. And I'm like, aha! I did write it. I immediately stopped mowing and text Mark and like, I found it. I found where I killed you.
Yes, guilty as charged.
So that was kind of funny. So I'm like I said, I'm blazing through the second book right now. Doing some rewriting and tweaking on the final scenes. Hopefully going to have that done in about a week and a half, probably. And then we'll start planning out book 3. And still working on Sentinel, which is my working title for what had been Savage Stars, Not Savage Stars. And I'm still trying to do that as a transcription project all the way through from beginning to end. I've got about 30,000 written, even though I haven't added it to the sheet, Nathan. They're written, and I know that they're there.
Sure didn't happen.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So it's coming along really well. Devin and I shipped. So I got 2 author copies that I bought myself of Blood and Steel off Amazon. They come faster than when I get them from Steve, even though they're full price or whatever. But so I paid to send them to Devin because he's sending me 2, and then we're going to have 4 copies that are signed by both of us. That I think we're going to give away 2, and then we're each keeping 1 for whatever. But holy crap, it was like $70 to send 2 books to England. I was like, this is insane. Yeah. So I don't know how often that'll happen, but holy crap. Because I went to the UPS store and I was like, I want to mail these to England. And like, she did a little calculation and she's like, if you send those UPS, it'll be $200 something. And I was like, is there a cheaper way that we can do this? Cause I'd like to do the cheaper way.
You have a homeless guy that'll hitchhike to England and carry the book with him. Just give him $50,
dude. And it'd be cheaper.
Is there a merchant marine I could just pay to take it in a backpack?
Good God, man, crazy. Nathan says, according to the official document, you haven't written since
January. Yeah, Rick says if they're not in Keystroke Rimo, they didn't happen.
Yeah. Yep. Good God, I really should. I need to work on.
It's a good daily habit to get into. It really, it does kind of make you go.
Kayleen says I should send it by carrier pigeon.
There you go.
Big monster,
really big bottle.
You'd have to do like a European swallow because the African swallow doesn't have the wingspan to get it to there. Yeah, crazy. So yeah, not much else other than that going on. Had a great Father's Day out on the lake. We're probably going to be swapping or switching the live show from Monday mornings to this time Tuesday afternoons, especially during the summertime, because we found that I need kind of
somebody sign over.
a break day from the
Monday.
weekend to recover, and doing the show on Mondays is typically not conducive to my overall mental well-being, and part of the show I'll just be like this.
Which could be entertaining.
It could be entertaining in and of itself, yes.
Could be good.
Scott and I are talking about doing some fun things here in the near future, maybe getting together and doing some like live on scene type stuff that might be fun to work into KSM or just our author platforms. But overall, it's going well. The summertime is always a slowdown, especially with the kids and no school. And we've got a really good babysitter now that comes and hangs out with the kids. So the mornings are really good for getting work done. And yeah. I figured we'd have a roundtable just to talk about anything and everything today. I with everything else going on and trying to finish listening to my book, I didn't finish listening to the second half of the characters arc book that we talked about a few weeks ago. Right. So I figure we can put that off for a week. I'll finish listening to it this week, and then maybe we can dive back into it next week to finish off that book. And then maybe we can look at the creating tension book and talk about that.
I finished reading The Gray Man.
Ooh, what'd you think about it?
I read the first. I took it to the beach with me and got started on it, and I just finished it the other night. Action adventure. It's awesome. It's very awesome.
Wait till
I don't
you get to
remember
my
if
turn.
you said this. My only complaint is that I came very, very close to calling bullshit on somebody.
I told Scott the same thing.
He was just a little too tough. Yeah. I mean, you know, and honestly, kind of. I mean, I see what the writer was going for. He was going for the, you know, assassin with a heart of gold kind of. You know, he's a hero. But there's a difference between being a hero and being stupid.
Right.
And he did some shit I would actually classify as stupid. Now I've gotten the audiobook for the second one. I'm going to give it another chance. But the second one's much better. Overall, I mean, just on the surface, very entertaining book. I mean, it was like John Wick with a point.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pulling up YouTube on my other screen because I forgot to do that before we started. That's why I'm all distracted here. There we go. Now
well, and I think the Gray Man is actually a huge point of interest to that really illustrates a point, right?
Okay.
Because as a writer, we see all that,
right?
But as readers don't see any of that.
Yeah,
that is exactly true.
So, and if you look at I think as a writer, after the book 2 through 10 are amazing books. From a writing standpoint, from an author reading, 2 through 10 are amazing books. The first one, I told Scott all along, the first one's rough. Skip the first one. I'll tell you what happens, and you could start at the second one.
And I almost did, but I had a day where I was helping with the auction, so I had to listen to audiobook all day while I moved books around, and I wanted to die. I hated it so bad. Yeah. I thought it was so awful, and I would never have finished it if I hadn't had multiple author friends tell me that it got really good the rest of the series. But there is so much, I just can't stop vomiting about the first book. I'm sorry. I'm not normally that honest, but yeah, I would be screaming in my car. I hated it so bad.
Yeah. There was a couple of times I just kind of dropped it in my lap and I was like, no, no, I see what you're trying to do, man. But
and then there would be like,
you're overdoing it.
Then it would start to get good, and I'll be like, okay. But then it would go back to, and I could get in all these little a lot of it was crafty stuff and repeated words.
Right. Well, that's it. But Josh is right, voice. It was writer stuff.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
If I was just some guy reading the book, it probably would have been fine.
Yeah. Well, and I think some of it is he was trying to, as a conceptual idea, he was trying to make the Gray Man in one book have a legend that the reader would feel is authentic. And instead of building that legend across it's almost like in like Jason Bourne in the Bourne series, where we
Right.
meet Jason Bourne and we don't know who he is, and even Jason doesn't know who he is, but everybody else is like, holy shit, that's Jason Bourne. And speaking mostly from the movies here, because the books don't follow the movies really at all.
No, they don't. No.
The movies, he progressively improves his fighting ability, and as he regains kind of stuff, and a lot of stuff is based on instinct, and then we slowly see, yeah, this guy's a badass. But in the Gray Man, I think what Mark was trying to do as a concept is tell the reader right on the outset, this guy's a legend. And
Right.
I think that in trying to do that effectively, he went like overboard.
I
and now
agree.
you're like, okay, like we get it, he's a badass, right?
Right.
Instead of building that, because as the series progresses, his badassery doesn't become stacked, like it doesn't get higher. But the way that he does things are like, oh yeah, that would be the Gray Man doing that. Like, yes,
Right.
that makes sense. And you're like, holy shit, I'm glad that he made it. Like, but he doesn't compound, like he doesn't level up.
Yeah.
Right. Like he
shouldn't really.
Right. Like he's not, it's not like he's going from Luke Skywalker to from nothing to now he's the all-powerful Jedi. His abilities pretty much stay level from book 2.
He's already the best there is at what he does.
Right. And like Ken's saying, I'm not sure about reading book 1. And honestly, for anybody interested in the series, if you just like go to wherever, like a Wikipedia or something like that, and read like what the first book is about, you could probably skip it.
Yeah,
because
it's very straightforward.
Because the first book does not, like, nothing in the rest of the series, with the exception of one character, and even then, one character builds throughout the series as a tertiary character. It's not a main secondary character or anything like that. If you're interested, you could start a book 2 and you wouldn't lose anything.
Yeah, if you wanted to, if you buy the advice that you should read bad books as well as good books from a learning the craft perspective, then the first book is a wealth of information. But a lot of it, if you didn't have this conversation, you just went into it like kind of like going to a new Star Wars movie. You have to just kind of decide in advance. You're not going to get too critical of it.
Right.
But it's probably really fun. But lots of the things that, well, there's just lots of things, but the way he handled the antagonist was really bad.
Yeah.
And then he would have some points of view from the child's point of view. And those were terrible because the child is thinking like an adult. They're using terms like walking across the manicured yard and all things that a kid would never say. And it just, to me, it was really jarring, but a lot of people might not notice that, but it really made me angry.
Yeah.
Listening to it, I was like, Scott raging that.
And I don't disagree. And if honestly, if Lisa hadn't talked so much about it, my interest in continuing the series probably wouldn't made it past the first book.
And I wouldn't say exactly the same here, but listening to the second one, and I don't know why, but I'm glad that I did because I really like the second one. The second one,
I just got started on that this morning.
Much better, and I think it's because it's more the second book. You actually spend some time with the character most of the time. But in the first book, you're trying to get a view of the bad guy or of your hero through everybody else's eyes. And I don't give a shit about anybody who's looking at the hero. And so you're getting all of your information from people you don't care about.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're kind of shitty characters that a lot of them don't even have names. I mean, they literally don't matter at all.
I can't remember if it was the first book. I think it was the first book. The first book have the Asian assassin.
Yeah.
So that was one
potential.
That whole arc was pointless.
Right, and that's my thing. Like
it should have had a point.
It should have had a point, and I
But
think
it
that's where I think where he gets like the conceptual issue, the issues of his world, and his world is assassins and secret organizations and all that stuff. Honestly, I think he was trying to do way too much with the first book because he could have taken that Asian assassin. I can't remember his name, but the Asian assassin that's in the first book.
Yeah.
He could have created that into like an ongoing, like maybe an arch enemy or something like that.
Some kind of rival, a frenemy or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
instead he was just there to hurt the Gray Man more.
Yeah.
That was it. That could have been handled in just he got ambushed by other assassins.
Right.
Period. We didn't need any backstory on that character at all.
I think and learning from like kind of the mistakes that he did in that first one. I look at like introduce the way he does it in the rest of the series is you get a lot of tertiary characters that then get killed, but it's to illustrate the surprise and stealth and effectiveness and expertise of the Gray Man. And you're like, this guy has no idea what's going on. Bam, there's the Gray Man. He's doing it like from a cinematic perspective, right?
Sure.
And I think a lot of that is something he was trying to do in the first book, but just didn't have the grasp of what he was doing. And on the second book, he got it. But so I like, that's like reading books, you look at what he did wrong and learn from that, even if you don't want to read the first.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in reading the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Just so you can do postmortems on them, just like we're doing right now, and say, okay, that's
Thomas
why that didn't
says
work.
no one expects the Inquisition of Valor.
Do what? Where's that? Oh,
no one expects the Inquisition of Valor.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true.
With the amount of themes that Valor has endured, I really want to write another Valor book now, just to continue the string of memes.
Yeah, there you go.
You have to it would have to be called Coyote of Valor.
That's true.
Coyote of Valor. Coyote of Gray Man Valor.
I don't know if you guys watched last week's Writer's Journey, but we made Scott a Werecoyote.
Nice. Good.
Lieutenant Moon, the Werecoyote.
It's funny because I actually was reading some urban fantasy. I think it's Blood Moon. I can't remember her name. She's but her main character,
Patricia Briggs, I think.
And I think the main character is a Werecoyote. And she's around the werewolves, and there's a big difference between Werecoyotes and werewolves.
Talking about thriller made me think of this movie that I just watched, and story-wise, it's quite possibly one of the coolest John Wick type movies that actually has a really good story, and that's Man of Wrath. I think that's what it's called. Or Wrath of
Statham. Yeah, man.
Is it Wrath of Men or Wrath of Man? Yeah,
Wrath of Men.
So I hate when movies are given away in the trailer, and they do that so much nowadays.
Yeah.
You watch the trailer and like, I don't even have to watch the movie now. I can just watch the trailer and I know what it is. Wrath of Man, for me anyway, I watched the trailer and expected John Wick. And what I got was John Wick with really cool story and a twist that I didn't see coming at all. And it was really well done. And it wasn't just a whole bunch of Jason Statham like going through and killing everybody.
Typical Jason Statham movie.
Right. And it wasn't the typical your son gets killed, so now let's go on a revenge flick. There was a whole bunch of building, and one thing that they did, which I kind of get, sometimes can be done wrong, which is like doing no spoilers, doing an event from one point of view, and then going back and doing it from another point of view, and then going back and doing it from another point of view. Like that happens in this movie, but each time it happens, there's a build and a switch. Right. And the build and switch is done masterfully. The only time I'd ever seen it done almost as good as that is as an older movie that didn't get rave reviews. It's called Vantage Point.
Right, the bomb going off.
With the bomb going off.
Yeah, I saw that one.
I thought they did it really well in that movie too.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I don't know, I almost did with Edge of Valor is doing different point of views for the same incident and then seeing it from the eyes of somebody else. But really well done in these two movies. And man, that if you have, it was only out for early release. I'm sure it's not out for regular viewing. Wrath of Man. Let's see if it's still it's still in oh no, you can buy it. It's on Amazon right now. You can buy it. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
I'll have to try and watch that. We'll see if it's one that I watched with my wife, because she has a lot of rules about what you watch and whether it's stressful or not. So
I watched it with Jamie and she enjoyed it.
We were going to see some movie. I can't remember what it was, and it was sold out. It shows you just before 2020.
Right.
And we went in there, but John Wick 2 was there. I'd never seen any of the John Wicks. And she goes, "You want to see that one?" Because she knew it was my type of movie. And she literally just stared at my shoulder the entire movie. I think she looked up one time. And she goes, I can never get those 2 hours back. I'm like, yeah, but it was a good movie.
Well, I think the difference between John Wick and Wrath of Man is like they're both like action, so you get a lot of killing. But in John Wick, there was a lot of like brutal in your face.
Yeah, really
like,
detailed. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be a hardcore action junkie
because, like,
to really get into those Wick movies.
Yeah,
and
Wrath
of Man wasn't like that.
Because she loved the Bourne movies, but not there's a line I think between like Jason Bourne and Taken and on those are all slightly different, but they're kind of all the same. There's still a lot of defeating lots of
bad guys,
kind of like a video game. Bam, 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 bam. You're just constantly taking somebody out or outsmarting them.
Ken Ward said he wanted to see Nobody. I've wanted to watch
heard
that
pretty
as well.
good things about that.
It looked really cool. That the trailer when it came out looked really cool. I just haven't got around to watching it yet. But it looks good. I like that actor. He Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad were two of my favorite series a couple of years ago. And I thought that actor, I can't remember his name now. Let me see.
Shit, if you hadn't asked me, I could have told you.
Bob Odenkirk.
Odenkirk, yeah.
Really underrated actor.
Apparently he trained for like a year before they even started shooting.
Yeah.
Because he was out of work. No, I'm kidding.
Well, so I like that kind of action, and it's hard to translate that into book writing, right? Like you don't want to have like page after page after page.
Because it's very visual.
But I think, like going back to the Gray Man on this, I think as a series, I think that Mark Greaney does that extremely well.
He does
in his book series, and even as it continues on, because you know that thing about not having action, just like you have a ninja fight just to have a ninja fight, and it's really different on the page than, you know, you can watch Jackie Chan have a ninja fight in a movie for 20 minutes and you're like, this is the coolest thing ever, but you have that same ninja fight in a book for 2 chapters long, and you're just like by the middle of it you're skimming the words, like just trying to figure out what happened.
Well, just because it takes longer to read it, you know,
right?
And watching it, you're in the moment with them, and it's all physical. You know, reading a description of something physical is a very different experience. But no, you're right. Greaney kept those action sequences very, very tight and very, very kind of immediate. You know, there weren't like all these really long descriptions of all the moves they were making and all this stuff. You know, it's not like it was, sometimes you read that stuff and it almost feels like an instructional manual. Like, you know, if you're going to be in a knife fight, do this and move your foot here and twist your hips this way. And, you know, and he didn't really do all of that unless the motion really impacted the outcome. He just kind of let the reader's imagination fill in the blanks as we're supposed to do with action stuff.
Well, one of the things I liked about his descriptions of the fight scenes is you gain a type of understanding of the person that Court Gentry is by just the narrative of the fight scene, because it's not Greaney just kind of showing you that there's a fight. He's inside Court's head and picking up on different cues and different things that an assassin would pick up on. And so you kind of, as the scenes kind of progress, you kind of really gain a really good understanding of why Gentry is so good at his job, and why he's the most lethal killer out there. And I think that's a testament to Greaney's skill. Even if you don't like thrillers as a genre, he does it really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Lexi Price says, I really enjoy John Wick, but I'm not a girly girl. Yeah, my wife enjoyed John Wick. I think they're fun movies. I'm excited for the 4th one to come out.
One of my wife's best friends is an absolute John Wick fanatic. And when I told her that we interviewed the screenwriter for that, she about lost her mind.
What was his name? I'm gonna look up the episode that we had.
Crap, I can't remember.
Keystroke, Medium, John Wick. That was one of the John Wick and the Derek Kolstad. Derek Kolstad and the Parapoliti brothers. Those were some of the funnest.
Those were great. Those guys are good
shows we had in season 5, especially when we started talking a lot about story and had those guys on, because it was interesting how story focused they were when talking about like process, right? Because they didn't talk about like just really critical things about like I would think of like structural wise, like this and that. They were just heart of the story all the way, and I think that was awesome. Especially coming from like somebody that writes John Wick, because you look at John Wick and you're like, oh, it's a story about killing people, but there's a lot of stuff that went into the creation of that story, which I thought was cool.
Oh yeah.
Bard had a pretty good question there.
So how much is too much? Would you say he threw a fist into his gut and then tossed him to the floor, or his assault left him lying and breathless on the floor?
It kind of depends.
It really does depend on that. Like, I think too much would be like he lashed out with his right hand connected with the left side of his jaw and he fell back, and that's too much. But when you say, his fist connected hard and pain lashed through his arm or something, like honestly, it really kind of depends on what genre we're writing. Because like Scott, you mentioned, or Steve mentioned a while ago when I was talking to him about Edge of Valor, when we were first going through the editing process and he was editing that book, he was like, I felt like at some points it was a kind of point by point by point. He did this, he did this, he did this, he did this.
Right.
But in Mill Sci-Fi, that's the kind of stuff that those readers are looking for. They're reading for the tactics. They're reading for what did they do in this specific instance.
Yep.
Whereas if you're doing like a fantasy or even a space opera, they're not looking for that. So you could really kind of cut down and simplify the fight scenes in those.
Yeah, unless you're writing in a genre that wants the tactical details. Really, I think that action scenes like this kind of need to be written from the perspective of how does it feel? The moment you're writing that fight and it starts to feel like it's being explained, you've gone too far. You want the reader to read it and be like, oh, is he going to win? Is he going to win? And if you start pushing all these factual details on them, that fractures the emotion that they're feeling, and you're going to lose them. Unless, again, you're writing for someone who actually wants the tactical stuff so they can kind of put themselves in their shoes and all that kind of thing. So I really think that's kind of the dividing line.
Kayleen made a good comment in here, just talking about specifically about what Bard said. Character A threw a fist into character B's gut. Character B crumpled the assault, leaving him breathless on the floor. I mean, it's simple. The only thing I would caution there is this sentence would work if you're writing it from character B's perspective, because it wouldn't work if you're writing it from character A's perspective, because he wouldn't feel the breathlessness. Right. Yeah. So exactly. Those are things that you need to look at when writing.
You probably want to say something like character B crumpled, gasping for breath.
If you're writing it from character A's perspective.
Character A's perspective. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. And then the last thing is either way might be right, depending on the scene. Some scenes need different things. Sometimes you need you need to slow it down because it's just choppy. And so you need to have more of their thoughts, but sometimes you need things to go fast, and then you need to punch with the beats, but you can only do so many. Because I mean, as a reader, I start just as a listener, especially, I start glossing over that shit. And I'm like, oh yeah, we got to the end of the battle. Who won? And then I go on about my day.
Well, Kid actually has a good point about that, because fights are not usually, they don't last very long. They're usually very quick. Yeah. And by the end of, I mean, I've been in street fights where it lasted. I mean, I fought a guy for like 2.5 minutes by myself.
It felt like 10 years.
I was blown out by the end of that fight.
Oh yeah.
And so when you watch a Jackie Chan movie, like obviously it's fake and it's rehearsed and it looks cool, but no way would that happen in real life, because you would be done in like 5 minutes. You would not. The fights that I think are super cool are the ones where the characters actually start getting tired. During, like, there are some films, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but they start like getting up real slow. Like I think Bourne actually did this in one of his fight scenes, where they were having a fight, and then like they would separate, and then they'd both stand up and stagger for a minute before they went back at it again, because they're starting to feel winded. They're starting to get like the crap kicked out of them, and they hurt.
Yeah. Actually, as I recall, all of the Wick movies, towards the end of the movie, he's staggering.
They're roughed up.
They'll like stagger towards each other, then and then they stagger back.
Right.
It's like they're building up enough energy to come in for the kill, you know?
Yeah.
But the great example of that is an older movie called They Live. And
they were making fun of it in that. I was just thinking that same one because they did like
a
20-minute
scene in an
scene.
alley. It's like a 20-minute fight scene, but it's done in such a way that the two guys are just like,
and they're both WWE wrestlers, and so it's kind of like a hat tip to their background. Total fun. Yeah, I love that movie, by the way. Ken Ward had asked if we'd checked out Jerry Jenkins' video where he talks about Dean Koontz's approach to story.
No, I actually just wrote that down. I'm gonna look.
I did too. I pulled it up on their browser so I can remember to do that later. But that's definitely something worth some follow up. I love Dean Koontz.
I think I've only read one of his books, but I really enjoyed it.
He has good audiobooks, and I got into Dean Koontz early on because back in the days when you had to like go on a quest to get an audiobook, you had to find a friend of yours who had the cassette tapes, was willing to part with them, sign a contract, and then get them listening back and hope you didn't lose one of them.
Yeah, he's got some really good ones. He's also got a few that kind of missed the mark, but
I listened to probably a dozen of them or so during that phase.
I enjoyed his Odd Thomas series a lot.
That's about where I started, but I did. I think I listened to the first one. I liked. I love Dragon Tears and Mr. Murder.
Dragon Tears is the best.
Yeah, Dragon Tears is. I listened to about 4 times because of the dog mostly, and the narrator did a great work with the dog in Dragon Tears.
Dean Koontz's approach to story
included Golden Retriever. Oh, that's true. He is a dog fanatic.
He literally. I remember reading an interview about him. And there's dogs and eating. He has lots of eating and food. A lot of food binges in his stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
And his main villain in Dragon Tears was a guy called TikTok that basically could freeze time or slow it down so it felt like it was frozen. Well, he was a spoiled kid, could do whatever he wanted. And 2 of the things he wanted to do all the time that he wasn't allowed by his oppressive serial killer inducing mother or whatever was have sweets and salties. And since he could control his metabolism, he eat as much as he wants. So he would just like binge on potato chips and candy all the time. That's like all he ate. Like, okay. but some version of that's in a lot of his books is that and the dogs.
Like Menez 85 says, not exactly a real fight scene, but Matt Damon and Christian Bale's wrestling match in Ford versus Ferrari ends after a couple minutes with both guys gassed on the ground. But I mean, honestly, that's how a lot of fights stop. You just roll off of each other.
You just get too tired to go on. Yeah,
that was a funny scene because his wife comes out and brings them both a Coke. You guys want a Coke? And they're laying there.
Are you done now?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys follow a lot of YouTube videos on or channels on story. I watch Film Courage. I subscribe to that on YouTube, and then I can't remember the other one off the top of my head, but Film Courage has a lot of good specials on story, and they do a lot of good interviews with storytellers. Like they have it's like an hour and a half video with John Truby and an interview he did on story. And they do a lot of cool breakdowns on different things. I watch a lot of those because I don't know, YouTube's changed a lot in the last 10 years, and there's a lot of good free information you can find on YouTube that's way better than our show, or we're just talking about like stupid stuff only.
You got a mind for it. You got to be dedicated.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, every hour.
You can't go to the lake every weekend and get wasted.
True.
You just can't do that.
That's true.
Is that a lesson we're teaching? I didn't know we were teaching that lesson. I didn't get the memo at our last.
We might be teaching it.
Professional meeting.
we might be teaching it, just not living it.
We're not living it or learning anything from it at all.
Oh, that's fun.
Somebody mentioned. Oh, that was They Live. That's the one that they were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever seen that.
You're okay.
Yeah, it's from the 80s.
Oh, that's probably why I've never seen it.
A little before your time.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Haskell says the one that wins the fight is the one that brings the gun or has surprise first, which is typically true in a lot of situations. I need to write that down. I need to watch that. They Live.
It's the one who shoots first.
You ever heard the line, I'm here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum?
I have heard that line.
That's where
it's from that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See? Now I learned something on the show. I don't care if anybody else learns anything on KSM. I just learned something right now, and that's amazing to me.
Well,
What about you guys? Have you guys read any good books that really just floored you in the last little bit? I mean, we got a couple of minutes till we wrap up the show. I just finished book 10 of The Gray Man a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm listening to mine. But I wonder, what have you guys listened to anything?
I listened to Ruins of Earth.
By Christopher Hopper?
Christopher Hopper and Cheney. And that was an extremely good read. And of course it's R.C. Bray, so I mean it makes it good. But yeah, there, especially if you like lots of pop culture references, and I think they spent some time getting the military stuff pretty accurate for that genre, because a lot of the main characters are this squad of kind of hobbled together or patched together group of soldiers after the aliens attack. But and there's an AI in it, and a lot having an AI in a lot of things. In my Reaper series, the AI did really good. I recently asked over in Cheney's Facebook group who their favorite character was, and most people said X-37, which is the artificial intelligence in the Reaper books. But that's a really popular trope right now in military sci-fi, is an artificial intelligence. And the one in Ruins of the Earth is hilarious. It's because basically, but it's not it doesn't come from where you think it would normally come from, because basically he gets an alien gun, and it has an artificial intelligence, and he manages, there's a long explanation of how it works or why he gets to use the gun. But so then it adapts, and he's having a hard time with it and giving it a hard time. Well, when he first encountered it, this guy was chasing him through a house, and there was a Monty Python DVD there. So the gun sees it, and it can scan what it knows about human culture, and so it adopts its personality from John Cleese.
No.
Yes.
Nice.
That's amazing.
And he's just calling him wanker all the time, and it's
awesome.
It's pretty damn funny. So there's lots of inside jokes and stuff like that. So Kit mentioned Love John Carpenter, Escape from New York.
Yeah.
I
love that.
Escape from New York and Escape from LA, I think, are two of the most underrated Kurt Russell movies that he's ever done. That and Soldier.
Honestly, a lot of John Carpenter stuff is underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got some strong storytelling skills.
I went back. So the last Reaper basically was like, how I pitched it was Escape from New York on a decommissioned Death Star, and that's how I pitched it to Cheney.
It's a great pitch,
and so we went through that, because I was going to bed one night and I was like, what would happen if you had a Death Star that was decommissioned, but it's kind of still there because it's not totally gone, and what would get on in a place that size, the kind of hijinks and stuff. And so we started doing that. Well, then that's how I pitched it to him, but I hadn't watched the Escape from New York for probably 25 years. And so about halfway through writing the book, I thought I better since I pitched it, I better watch it again.
Right.
I watched it, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, some of it was so good, but you watch the first 20 minutes and literally nothing happens. There's a scene where they walk out onto the tarmac and this helicopter lands, and they show the whole landing. It takes like 2.5 minutes, and it's just the characters going, and the helicopter.
And it has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
That would not
buffer.
Yeah, it would not make it, because back then you're like, well, we have to show the whole landing.
Yeah.
But lots of stuff was like that. And nowadays they cut that stuff. They cut straight to the good part. They don't give you that boring stuff.
I wonder if you went through and did like a recut of like those movies from the 80s where like so much happens but doesn't happen at the same time.
I bet you'd lose an easy 30% of the film.
Yeah.
What's crazy though is if you watch it and you kind of know what to look for, like you can look at those movies, and every new movie is basically that movie is just a new version of it.
True.
Or about a half dozen movies, you can probably go, well, this is just like that from the 80s. This is just like that from the 80s. This is just like that from the 80s. They're all just rehashes, even the newer ones. That's why when you get a kind of a newer spin on one, like Taken kind of broke the mold a little bit, but it's still just a rehash. It just went to another level you weren't expecting.
Right, exactly.
And
Rick says,
there's really nothing new under the sun.
No, really
honestly, there really isn't.
I think that's the same with books and movies too.
Yeah,
and I know we're about out, but this is actually directly related to story, and it makes me look like somebody doesn't just watch murder movies. But we watched When Harry Met Sally the other day, because that's the type of movie my wife likes to watch, obviously. And I watched that, and that if you watch that for a writing perspective and like a scene setup perspective, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. Because back they didn't have any special effects, they didn't have anything. Every scene had to be set up in a way to do multiple things, and so every scene in that movie is so perfectly, and I didn't appreciate it then. I thought, so that's okay. But looking back, I'm like, holy shit. There was a lot of craft.
Once you learn what needs to happen for that to work, you really gain a whole new appreciation for it. I did watch something on Hulu that I'm kind of hesitant to admit to, but
look, we've all seen 50 Shades of Grey. We've all seen 50 Shades of Grey.
No, not that. Oh, Jesus, no. No, actually, we were looking for some family-friendly viewing stuff, and the Hulu did I think it's about 13 episode kind of a reboot of the Hardy Boys. And I loved those books when I was a kid.
Same.
I loved them. Read them all, read all the Nancy Drew, all of those quote unquote Franklin W. Dixon, though it was like 12 people that actually wrote them. But anyway, so I watched that and it's really good.
Really?
I mean, it's obviously kids, but it's very family friendly. If you want to watch it with your kids, it's got a deep mystery. It's got good twists. I mean, I was really, there's like one big mystery over all 13 episodes, but I mean, I was actually very pleased with it. I thought it was really, really well done. And, bearing in mind that it's supposed to appeal to everyone. So right. I recommend it. I really, really enjoyed it. It held my attention for the entire run.
I need something to bridge the gap before Yellowstone comes out because I'll have to go read that.
Yeah,
watch that.
Yeah, it's pretty good, man. I highly recommend it. If you want to sit down and watch something with your kids, it's perfectly safe for that.
We should do that. Jeff Haskell mentions The Matrix changed everything. We should probably all watch The Matrix again.
The Matrix was actually pretty original when it came out.
Yeah.
It was, and I think it was original because the internet was really just coming into its own about that time.
Well, they took a lot of concepts that previously weren't really conceptualized and put them all into one thing. And I thought, you back in the 80s, you wouldn't have had a movie with those kind of concepts in
Absolutely
it. So
not.
it you're right. It did kind of redesigned everything, the way storytelling or plot that story would have been told. Because I mean, Skynet was out, but not in a way that
but nobody. Skynet was kind of like the magic,
right?
It's this thing, but nobody really got how it worked. They just accepted that it was a thing,
right? Exactly. Yep.
But once everybody started actually understanding how networking between computers worked, the Matrix came in and it made sense to everyone.
Yep.
It's like if you read Snow Crash when it first came out. I remember reading Snow Crash.
I haven't read it either.
Yeah.
Well, so I read it like I think it was in the mid 90s, something like that, early 90s. But when I read Snow Crash, I mean, the internet was a thing, and you could imagine all of this stuff. Basically, the whole society has become a huge online multiplayer game or whatever. And you would kind of have real estate. You'd have like kingdoms inside there. You could do all these different things and and there's this blend, but it was your first cyberpunk. But I remember having a hard time visualizing it as much back then, even though I could get all of it and I was all into fantasy and science fiction. But now that's just like an old idea. But at the time, it's hard to really appreciate what it was like to get something you're like, what is this guy talking about? That didn't happen very much.
Well, because at that time, TV shows hadn't visualized the hacker, the cyber experience, right? Like you couldn't really visualize that, like Hackers, Tron, all these movies that visualize the electronic.
Yeah, it was like numbers kind of scrolling down the screen
do
in front of the character's face.
And Ken Ward says he couldn't get into Snow Crash, and that's funny because it took me like 4 tries before I finally read it, and then I really only liked the first half because I didn't think the second half.
Man, if I got to try that hard.
But once I did, it was like life changing. Once I finally got into it,
really.
I tried lots of times. Actually, it might have been before that. It might have been before that because I think the Scott Drinkwater's a friend of the family who's like 5 years older than me. When I was growing up, I'd be like 12 or 11 or 12, and they had like a high school D&D group, and I was allowed to play with them. So they're like 17 and 18. And so actually, I don't even know when that came out, but anyway, I'm kind of babbling now. It was pretty intense.
I was going to say something about it, and I forgot what I was going to say. Patricia Gillum says a show like Babylon 5 with current special effects would be amazing.
I would love a reboot of that. I love that so much.
If you're going to reboot anything, reboot a good series.
Something good, yes. But yeah, Babylon 5 with today's special effects, that would be that would just be eye candy. I mean,
One of the things I think we might do over the summer, and we're talking about kind of breaking down these writing books, is like picking a movie that's been out for a while that has really good storytelling aspects, and like breaking those storytelling aspects down. For me, like one of this is going to sound hilarious, but one of the most interesting things I've ever pulled away from a Disney cartoon on like looking at the storytelling of it was Wreck-It Ralph. And Wreck-It Ralph had some of the most amazing world building, but also like what's the thing you always say,
I've heard
Scott?
that before.
The inevitable, the surprising but inevitable
ending. That's really hard to do well.
The building blocks of Wreck-It Ralph and how they structured that and built that story on itself to validate the ending of that movie was amazing. And maybe one of these days we should like have an episode talking about that. We should
do that, and we should also catch me up on all the movies. So I love science fiction series more than anything. I waited for Star Trek Next Generation and all that stuff to come out, and I started watching it. And then due to my weird schedule, I have almost never completed one of those series. I haven't completed Star Trek Next Generation. I haven't completed Babylon 5. I didn't complete Farscape. I didn't complete Firefly. I'm a sad, hopeless person. So you guys should fix that. We should watch that and talk about them. Watch all those things.
I'm 100% down.
Hey, I would love. I think I could get my son in on this too. But I would love to sit down and maybe do Firefly one episode at a time. It's just one season, so we could, and then they'd wrap it up with Serenity.
I'd be down for that.
And as far as I know, people still love that stuff. So
I'd be down for that. Maybe we could set up kind of a watch schedule and like post like this is the episode we're watching this week, and then have everybody comment in the group, like talk about it in the comments of the.
Do you think you could set it up where the show simulcasts?
You can do a watch
StreamYard and with us and actually do a live watching together. Is that possible? And we could pause it and talk and pause it and talk.
So I'd have to look up fair use, and I have to look up like how we'd be able to do that, because I know like streaming stuff you could do like Amazon watch parties, but I don't know about, because I've seen people do like reviews of movies, and they first reaction to this movie, and they watch the whole movie, but you can only do sections. You can't play the whole thing. I don't think that we'd be able to watch the whole thing on stream, because you'd get into copyright issues and stuff like that. The easiest way I think to do would be to make a post in the group and say, this is the episode we're watching this week, and have that thread be part of, we could use that as discussion points for the show.
I'm sorry. Ken Ward says Keystroke needs to buy Netflix and make all these shows.
Oh, I'll get on that. I'll get on that,
Josh.
Acquisitions of Valor. That's right. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We kind of talked about a myriad of things, and hopefully we'll get in this back to a legitimate show schedule where we have things lined out and we know what we're going to be doing. The summertime is kind of throwing a wrench into our plans, but I think going forward, just Tuesday afternoon kind of works for us, and we've got a lot of interaction today on the show, so it wasn't a dead point in anybody's day, which is great. I think that's awesome. So we'll probably stick with this time, Tuesday at 2. Carry on with that for a couple of weeks and see how it goes, and if people are on board, then I'm good with keeping that schedule. So next week we'll be back on Tuesday at 2. I think we're going to try to wrap up our discussion on character arcs by K.M. Weiland, and then maybe we'll talk about scheduling out a watch party for the series Firefly, or maybe a movie, and see how that goes. Maybe we can do like a special episode and say, hey, we're going to do a special episode on this show, and we'll see how it goes. I think
we should all watch different movies, but then talk about them like they're the same.
100%. That's a great idea. Yeah. Kaylee, Plottr. Ryan from Plottr will be on the writer's journey on Friday. Hopefully I'll be able to make that show. That's going to be a great episode if you're interested in using Plottr. KSM is an affiliate of that, and we'll have our link up in the show notes of that show, definitely. And if Ken Ward is listening, not Ken Ward, Ken Britz is listening. Put it in the show notes for this show for Plottr. People want to get a 30-day trial, they can, and check it out next week. And he'll be on Friday to talk about it. So it's a really good program. I've used it twice. I'm really excited. I love it.
Yep. I'm excited to see how they do that, because I'm going to start using it on my next project, on the next Reaper book.
All right, everybody. Well, we're out of here with that. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us in the live chat. If you're listening on the live feed, come and hang out with us on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. CST for the live show. And yeah, it's going to be good. We're going to talk about writing and reading and everything in between right here
and Wreck-It Ralph
right here on Keystroke Medium. Peace.
Later, guys.